Okay, so this is the second part of what we were just, oops, of what we were just working on. So let's go back into Unity. And what I want to do here, when we look at in Rider, when we look at the solution, we see that we have this assembly C sharp, which is where all of our code is currently living. And we have these first pass. These are also generated assemblies. We have standard assets editor, and we have the standard assets. Now, these are generated. What we're about to do is add assembly definition files to the project, which are Unity sort of token files that hint the compiler how to generate code. In earlier versions of Unity, these were kind of done by naming convention, like there were no assembly definition files, but that's okay. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is a little bit of cleanup. So what I want to do here is create a folder for the root project. The game is called Asteract. It's like a space fighting game, and I want to put scripts in there. I want to put scenes. This is going to be slow. Scenes in there, models, prefabs. I don't want to put that in there. Mm, might leave that at the top level. That might go in the project. Yeah, I think I can safely put that in there. Standard assets we want to leave out, and textures and materials we want to put in. So let's just make sure that this. Yeah, so this still builds. Okay, so what I want to start with is an assembly definition. So the other thing I'm going to do here is actually that's fine. So let's create an assembly definition. So create assembly definition, and let's call this asterisk. And when we look over here, I'm not super keen on how all of this works. I think we want auto-referenced in case, like in the unit test, we want to pull in our asterisk game code. We want auto-referenced, and we're going to have to add references to other assembly definitions here. You see how we got this error. The namespace Unity standard assets could not be found. If we go into our code in Rider now, we're going to have all kinds of red squigglies. The way we resolve this is by also adding an assembly definition, a couple of assembly definitions here. So create. Um, so that's that. That's auto reference. That should be good. And then we want one in editor. I am not 100%. So the code in standard assets that we're going to use in this project, and this is legacy code, is this cross-platform input manager. And so I think in standard assets in their root, this is sort of the game code in here, right? And then this editor code is stuff that initializes stuff in the editor. So what we want is a separate assembly definition here. And we want, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. We want this to reference standard assets. So where'd that go? Assembly definition reference, standard assets. Okay, so that references standard assets, and we can. Oh, we got a. Oops, we got. Yikes! Please go away. We have to apply that. So what that does is in the editor standard definition, we're going to be referencing code in that outer asmdef. And the way these asmdefs work is they're at the root of a file tree. So, like, this asmdef is going to have cross-platform input and fonts, and because there's a separate asmdef in here, this one's going to have cross-platform input. So, you see, we're still getting this Unity standard assets cannot be found in our game code. We need to add a reference to standard assets and apply that. Okay, so that got rid of the error. So now if we go into any script, this is opening the solution, right? So if we look at in here, we now have assemblies for this is one of the assemblies we created, standard assets there. We created an editor and we created asterisks, and these live alongside the C sharp assemblies. And these are all auto generated, but now it looks as if we look at the solution. So this is the Unity view, and if we look at assets, if we look at assets, asterisks, scripts, these are all green. It seems like everything is happy. If we look at the solution, we see these individual assemblies. So we can see that what we just did is asterisks now contains our game code because again, we put if we look at assets, we created the root and then in our script folder we put an asmdef here, so everything under here is now included in this assembly. And we did that for standard assets as well. Standard assets. This is that root asmdef for standard assets, right? And then we did one for editor, and that's this. Now I assert that this is we're only having to do this because we're on Unity 2020.3. I assert that modern Unity already has this set up. That the linchpin is basically old Unity did all of this, but all of the solution and CS branch generation by naming convention, whereas modern Unity does it explicitly by these ASM devs. So in the third part of this, I'm going to cut here and drop into a new video. But in the third part of this, I'm going to finally get to the point of this, which is to be able to add unit tests and depend on any unit and get unit tests going. But we had to jump through all those hoops to get there.